Welcome to Shakin Hands, where we provide the platform for entrepreneurs and thought leaders to share their stories in order to hopefully influence others to get out of the rat race and chase their own dreams. If you have any recommendations for guests or questions that you want to be asked, please don't hesitate to reach out. Anyways, if you enjoy the podcast, please like, comment, subscribe, and share in order to keep the podcast growing. Otherwise, I'm your host, Jack Moran, and this is Shakin Hands. If you're looking for business mentorship, I have a place where you can get feedback on your unique personal development and business growth challenges. Over the last year, I've brought together a group of impact-driven thought leaders where we meet every single day to discuss psychology, communication, mindset, and business case studies. We have people who have made millions of dollars, lost millions of dollars, Harvard MBAs, and new entrepreneurs like you and I. Entrepreneurship can be lonely, so if you're looking for a support system, please follow the link in the description below for some more information. Yeah, so tell me what you got going on, your businesses and whatnot.
As we started cranking?
We're cranking.
Oh, God. So I found it in 2012, the Charleston Beverage Company. So it's a local cocktail brand. We make Charleston Mixed Bloody Mary, Charleston Mixed Margarita, and yeah, that's the big thing. And then a couple years ago, I met Sam, a couple years ago, founded the Charleston Boxing Foundation. So it's like it was founded as a charity to support student athletes scholarships to college, and then it's kind of morphed into this massive amateur boxing event at the arena that raises money for MUSC, Warrior Star Foundation. And yeah, this will be our third year. We're 10 days away from it.
So let's start with the mix. How'd you get into that?
So funny enough, went to college Charleston, moved down here from Bucks County, Pennsylvania. It's a northeast suburb of Philly, and went to school, did pretty well in school, managed to graduate in 4 years. Parents helped out a little bit, but I was an absolute moron with credit cards in college. Like we never had a conversation about how to deal with credit cards. And so graduate and didn't really have any student loans, but I was $40,000 in debt from credit cards.
Holy shit.
So I, having a conversation with my parents and, thinking maybe I can talk them into helping their youngest out. And they both point blank said, "This is your own problem. Like, go figure it out." So I had a friend of mine that worked at a local car dealership, and she's like, "Listen, I know you don't want to be at a car dealership, but it's a good job. It's a great company." I was with Hendrick Automotive, and if you're good at it, you can make some good money. So I think I started when I was 22 and just a sales guy, but it came pretty natural. Like I enjoyed it. We were selling pretty good products. Hendrick was a great company to work for. And once I paid off my debt within a couple of years, I would try quitting. So I'm like, this isn't what I envision my life as. And every time I tried quitting, I would get promoted. So, I go from being just a salesman to a finance manager, to the finance director, to the used car manager, the new car manager. But now I'm 27 and, like, what am I doing with my life? I'm making good money. And, me and some of my buddies from college had gone out one night and just got, Charleston 20-year-old smashed. Next morning, go to the grocery store to buy Zing Zang. That was my go-to brand. And they were sold out. It was at Harris Teeter on Folly Road. So we get back to my house. We had bought a bunch of like the garbage Bloody Marys, the master mixes. Sorry, I probably didn't say that. But like the ones that are just essentially, it's like tomato water.
Yeah.
And we get back to my house, start making Bloody Marys. We're day drinking at this point, kind of get like re-drunk. And we, you have these conversations with your buddies where you're like, "Dude, we should open our own bar," or like, "We should do," and that's exactly how it happened. So at the time, Firefly Sweet Tea Vodka had just gotten crazy big. And I knew Scott, who founded that, like, just in passing. And I'm, drunk in my head. I'm like, if they can do it, I can do it. So we all kind of agreed to start this company. It's a Sunday. going to work the next morning, and I'm hungover, I'm miserable. My boss was just being like, not a great person that day. And so one of my buddies calls me and he's like, "Hey, well, did you really want to try doing this?" So I was like, "Let's do it." So 6 months later, we had our first version of the recipe done. Had a neighbor of ours draw the artwork for the label. Like it was brutal. We had orange juice in the Bloody Mary mix. It was not a good Bloody Mary mix. And but in my head, I'm thinking I'm gonna be a billionaire. Like I'm gonna launch this. And so me and the boss one day at the car dealership get into it, and I pull a Jerry Maguire, and I was like, F you, you're cool. I'm out of here, and quit the job.
Oh.
And the Bloody Mary mix, I think I don't even know we were had any retail accounts. Like it was literally just I was slinging it out of the back of my SUV, and yeah, quit the job uh, with a terrible product and a ugly label, and just went all in.
So what was that like?
It was for sure eye opening. I mean, I thought when I bought this big house because I was making such good money at the dealership, had a good amount of money saved up from I wasn't living too high in the hog, and I thought I had plenty of money to start this company. And it was a comedy of errors, right? Like I'd never owned a small business. The only and experience I had in the beverage industry was drinking at a bar. So we it launches. My friend that I started it with, he had a really good job he liked. So within a couple weeks, it just wasn't working, right? Like he wasn't in the day to day. He wasn't really into it. So eventually he got out of it. And so it was just me. And, the product wasn't great. I was a pretty good salesman, but there's not that much you can overcome with a bad product. And you're burning through cash fast. So within like a couple of months, I'm out of money. And, I've got mortgage payments piling up. It's the height of the Great Recession. So home values are now 30% less than what they were. And I remember it clear as day. I went to Triangle Charm Bar in West Ashley. A buddy of mine was sitting there, and he's a big old bear of a man. His name's Boris. He's like Boris the bear. And he's been in the bar business for 15 years. And having good friends is great, but sometimes they don't want to tell you your kid's ugly. So I'm going through thinking, the Bloody Mary is pretty good. I don't know why bars aren't like, they'll take a case to try it, but they're not reordering. And Boris is drunk as hell, across the bar at Triangle from me, and he literally just yells, "Hey, your Bloody Mary mix fucking sucks." And I don't know what it was. It was like that slap across the face to sober you up. So I end up bringing Boris on board, and we start reformulating the recipe. I'm going to Total Wine every day with a gallon jug of our newest creation, and then the 6 top brands. And I'm blind sampling people and do this for like 7 months. Meanwhile, though, I'm out of money. So about to get kicked out of my house because I've decided that the only thing I care about is saving this company. And we need to get a new label done. We need to pay for the new recipe batches. So fortunately, I run into a fellow College of Charleston alum who graduated a couple years ahead of me, much, much more smart, or see exactly, smarter, and had been wildly successful. And so he kind of takes me under his wing, and I'm trying to put together a plan to get in some private equity money. And he's helping me draft it and redraft it. And then finally one day he's like, "Ryan, why do you think I'm helping you with all this stuff?" And I was like, "I don't know. You want to help me because we're a CFC alum?" And he's like, "No, you idiot. I'm going to invest in the company." So
Wow.
he ends up putting in a sizable chunk of money. We relaunched the brand. So labels, the recipe, but with anything, especially it's been on the market now for a year and a half, getting consumers and bartenders to give you another shot is next to impossible, right? They already know that
At this point in time, it had been a year and a half, or now it's been a year and a half?
it's been a year and a half since I launched the
Gotcha.
original.
Okay. How long has it been on the market now?
14 years.
Okay, gotcha.
So, it's it's essentially getting them to drink like Pepsi, clear Pepsi, right? Like I've already tried that stuff. I'm not trying it again. And so we hired this really good marketing firm, and they call me up one morning and they're like, "Hey, Garden and Gun magazine is doing this new award program called Made in the South Awards. We think you should enter the new version of the Bloody Mary mix." And I was like, "Cool, let's do it." So the only problem is the entries close today, so you have to have them everything by 11 o'clock. Garden and Gun's located on King Street. Our production facility is in Hanahan. So I literally drive up to Hanahan at 9 in the morning, hand brew a batch of our new Bloody Mary mix, put it into some glass bottles. Our marketing agency, the guys that did our labels, Hook on King Street, has an office above Garden and Gun. So I go into their office, they print out a label, and we, like kids, super glue the label onto the bottle. And then the shrink band, I go to the hair salon next to Hook so they can heat gun or hair dryer the shrink band on so it looks like a real bottle. So I walk the bottle into Garden Gun's office, and it's the editor in chief and a whole table of people, and I'm thinking I just stand there and pour them samples, and then they tell me how I did, and they're like, "No, you have to leave us the bottle." And I'm walking out the door, and I can see the label falling off. Like, this is gonna be a disaster. So a few weeks go by, they call our marketing agency and they go, "Hey, you guys have done pretty well. There's a chance you're going to be featured in the magazine. Just be ready for it." So then a few weeks after that, we get another call and they say, "Hey, you guys will be in the magazine. So be prepared for a little pop." And then about a week before it hit newsstands, they called and said, "Hey, you guys have won the best food product in the South."
Wow.
And so Sean Brock wrote the article or wrote the blurb for us about taste profile and how good it was. And I think that literally saved the company. Like that was the opening we needed to go to the bars and restaurants and back to the consumers and say, "Hey, we're not terrible anymore. Try us now." So yeah, it was a huge loop to get there, but it's been great. I mean, we've kind of taken the mantra, you know, go deep versus wide.
Mhm.
So we try to really own the markets that we're in. Um, we're now in 17 states, but out of 17, like our biggest competitors are Zing Zang and Master of Mixes. So they're 1 and 2 nationally, and they're carried in all 50 states. So we're number 3 in sales behind them nationally, and we're only in 17 because we really focus on, we want to make sure when we're in a market, we're advertising well, we get in front of consumers, because the death knell for any brand is if you get on the shelf in a grocery store and you don't move, you got a 6-month window to get that product moving.
Right.
And if it doesn't move and they yank you, your chances of getting back in there are impossible. Because it's the same thing. Like, "Oh no, we tried you. It didn't work. So no, we're not bringing you back in." So it's kind of been, we've had to judge like California, right? Great state. We do really well, but we're only in San Diego because we don't have the marketing budget yet to support like a statewide rollout. And, California loves local brands out there. So if we're going to go into market, we need to make sure we back it up. We've got the resources in place to do it because our window there is probably even tighter. But if you get in there and you start doing well, it's great. You just have to, once we get out of the Southeast, especially with the Charleston name, gets a little more challenging. Thankfully, Charleston's really well liked you know, around the country. And our, where we've gotten now is we want people to think of Charleston when they think of Bloody Mary mix the same way you would associate Cape Cod potato chips,
Right.
right? Like the brand means premium, it means quality, it means, hopefully it brings you back to a memory of your time in Charleston, right? Like relaxing, friends, fun. So certainly been a long road, and it's given me what's left of my hair that is now gray. So it's an interesting space to be in.
Well, it's interesting how when you have that resilience or that relentlessness and the commitment to an objective, sometimes it feels like it's all going to fall apart. And if you just keep that commitment till the
Yeah.
end, like those opportunities or, those breakthroughs kind of pop up right in time. when you
Yeah.
have that commitment, the universe rewards you.
So, I think about that a lot, and and I I almost want to, like, admit, for me, I don't know how much was commitment and how much it was I didn't know what the fuck else I was gonna do. Like, when I left my job at the dealership, I burned that like, I burnt I had my Jerry I literally had my Jerry Maguire, like, you're and so I couldn't go back there if this fell apart, and I was not that I was prideful or boastful about, owning my own company or launching a brand. I think I was too embarrassed to fail, right? Like, I am not going to unless I've exhausted everything I can possibly exhaust, I'm not gonna let this fail because, you know, I wanna say it was like, drive to succeed, but it was also, like, I didn't want my friends and people that I had launched this product in front of to be like, "Oh, yeah, Ryan failed." There's a ton of businesses that fail, and so I don't know why it was so stuck in my crawl space, but, yeah, that was a big part of it, was just the pridefulness, I guess.
Yeah, it's like, we use the saying, I'm sure you've heard like burn the boats. Like I think that's the best way
Yep.
to enter the entrepreneurial game is because when it is such a mental game more than anything else, when you have that plan B or that back door to exit, then, that's always going to tease you in the back of your mind. If you hadn't burned that bridge with the
Yeah.
dealership, maybe you get halfway through and you're like, fuck, this is hard as shit. I'm just going to go back to selling cars.
Yeah.
But the fact that you went 100% in, like, and didn't, created that environment where you didn't have any other choice, like
Yeah.
that, inevitably led to the success.
Yeah, I think part of it too is, uh, I did have a safety net, right? Like, there was my credit was shot from with my mortgage, and then, like I said, the dealership, but I would be remiss if I didn't say, like, ultimately, there was a safety net, right? Like, I knew worst case scenario, I could sleep on my parents' couch for a year while I got myself back on my feet. So, and when I'll talk to, once a year, I'll go talk to the entrepreneurship at the class of the college at CFC's business school, and I try to make sure that they kind of recognize as they move forward, a certain level of gratitude, like, hey, even if you think that you're putting it all out there, and a lot of us have more of a safety net than we admit to, and that does give us a certain level of comfort to burn the boats, right? I've got an insane amount of respect for all entrepreneurs, but especially for the ones that truly have no backup plan, right? They're like, I am burning the boat. I am burning everything that I came with, and I have nothing left to fall back on.
Yeah.
And those are the ones that, like, I'll that really inspire me where, like I said, deep down, I know I had a safety net. If things got super terrible and I wouldn't be sleeping on the streets. Like, I'd have a place to go.
And I think even people that have the safety net, they like convince themselves that like they don't have a safety net
Yeah.
and that's why they don't ever take the risk. Where like I've always had that peace of mind that it's like, what's the worst that happens? I'm like, I'm homeless,
Yep.
and it's like I'm I have at least some skills where I could get a job
Right.
or
Right.
like I can go to another country and be a surf instructor or
Yep.
something. Like there's always some avenue out. So it's funny how people kind of create these like limiting beliefs in their head where there is this catastrophic outcome that could come from being an entrepreneur where I think it's kind of silly. Like I think that there isn't really that bad of a scenario, especially for us like living in the US. We have so many privileges.
Yep.
Um, um, if you do fail, like there's a way out. And if you have like at least some skill set, you'll always be able to find a job. Like,
Yeah. And I think, it's funny. I was actually talking to my neighbor the other day, and he's getting ready to leave, a pretty comfortable corporate job. And I think for a lot of people that have the bug, right, the entrepreneur bug, there's always the woulda, coulda, shoulda. And that's what he kept saying to himself. He's like, man, got a great job. I make good money. I know I've got two little ones, my wife, but if I don't get out and do this now, I'm gonna be woulda, coulda, shoulda-ing.
yeah,
Now the flip side of it sucks, right? You get out and you fail, and it's like I said, it's embarrassing, and you gotta explain kind of what happened, and it's gonna put a financial hit on you. But the flip side of it is you're always gonna be the guy that's like, man,
shoulda, coulda, woulda.
yeah, I could have been after high school. I was an amazing quarterback. I should have gone to college and played pro, but It's
Yeah.
like, dude, then just do it.
And it gets a little bit more like uh complex when you have like kids or something. And
Yeah.
that's why it's like, a lot of our audience is younger. Um, and that's the time to take that risk.
Yeah. Especially, like I said, once you start adding kids and a family and a mortgage into a mix, it gets,
Then there are some catastrophic
yeah, it
outcomes.
gets really tricky.
Yeah. What do you think are the keys to succeeding as an entrepreneur?
I think part of it is for us, right? Like we take incredibly good care of our relationships. So, you know, we make sure that our partners, whether it's a retail partner, our distributors, we do as much as we can to be as good of a partner to them as we expect for them to be to us. I think level setting expectations, right? When we got into this, and we would pick up a new distributor. So like the way it works in our game is every state has a different distributor. In South Carolina, it's Breakthrough. North Carolina, it's Empire. So when I got into this, my impression of the business was I get a new distributor. They are my sales team, right? I don't need to hire 15 guys to be on the ground. These reps will be going out pushing my product for me. And you get caught in this trap where you take your foot off the gas and you forget that these reps have 400 other products they got to rep.
Yeah.
And that if you're not out there pushing your own product, no one else is going to do it for you. On the other part of that, as far as taking care of like our retail partners, and I can't take credit for it. It's actually, Tito's does it probably better than anyone in the business. They, one of the things they do, let's say like Charleston Wine and Food. We've partnered with Tito's now for I think 14 years. So they provide us the vodka for the Bloody Marys. And for a lot of liquor companies, when you partner up with them, we'd pick it up from the distributor. So they'd say, all right, I'll give you 10 cases of, whatever liquor. It'll be ready to pick up from Breakthrough at their warehouse. Tito's, whenever we partner with them, their reps will go to the liquor store and buy it back retail from the liquor store. And his philosophy to his reps has always been, these are the guys that take care of us. They're the ones that sell our product and make us money. Why would we undercut them? Like, let's take care of them. And so that philosophy is always kind of stuck with me, right? Where you keep your partners happy and your retail partners happy, and you do all you can to do the right thing. It's such a corny line, to do the right thing as much as you can. And it's funny that my boss from the dealership, that I had a huge falling out with, used to say, and I still have it, it's not if there's going to be a problem, it's what are you going to do to fix it? So our philosophy with like customers that write in to complain about the product, or maybe have a broken shipment that arrives, or something out of our control. Like, if you can keep 70% of your customers happy in the Bloody Mary world, everyone's got different palates. Like, you're doing pretty good. So we're not perfect. There are some products
Right.
people like more. And then who knows if some of these customers that write us and say, hey, I ordered your package off of Amazon, it broke. We know 99% of our packages don't break because we've gone through the testing. Like, we've got really good outer shells, and we never question it. We're not like, send us a picture of the broken bottle. Do you want to check back, or do you want us to reship your product?
Right.
And so every time without fail, we do that. And I think the last part of it is we make sure every time we have a customer interaction, like a retail customer, that's somebody that would go to a food and wine show, that we give them the best experience we possibly can. Because we're a small company, we're not Coca-Cola. You're not going to see us out and about at all these different sporting events. So for the food and wine shows, I'll bring in all of my friends. So we don't hire outside staff to do it. I literally get, buddies of mine from college, best friends from here in Charleston, and they get them all signed up on a sheet. And so for 3 days, they're my bartenders. I know they care about my brand. I know they're my best friends. So they're hopefully good people. And the only rule I've got is like, you can have as much fun as you want. I shouldn't say that, you can drink as much as you want, but like from the minute those gates open until the last customer leaves, every interaction needs to be, we're so glad you're here. What can I get you? And it was as basic as we were, some of my guys were starting to pre-pour. We were getting so busy, they were pre-pouring Bloody Marys. And they have these, a big like hunk of mix and vodka and ice and cups sitting at the back bar table, ready to just hand the customers. And I'm kind of watching the crowd and I'm looking at them, and you can see they're almost a little disappointed because we had gotten so good at interacting with the customers, having fun, making them laugh, asking them questions about themselves, that when it became like a lunch line service and they were just being handed their drink, they're like, and so we stopped it. We set a rule that every time a customer orders a drink from our bar, we are making it in front of them. We're not handing them pre-made stuff. And it takes a little longer, but you get a line build up and then the line gets more excitement. Everyone's having fun. And so, yeah, it's for us, it's like we want to take care of everyone as well as we possibly can. We're small enough that we don't need to be like this corporate, even though we're the third best selling mix in the country, we're still a small company.
Right.
So like I'll still respond to customer emails, I'll still, so it's never losing sight of the fact that ultimately your brand strength is the most important thing out there. Like you produce a quality product, but people think of your brand in a negative light. Like, what are you doing? For us, it might not be for everybody, but for us, it's worked.
What do you think are the keys to having a good brand? What are those fundamentals?
So I think the product's important, incredibly important, right? Like our first product sucked. Then I think your positioning in the marketplace, right? Like we know for our product, we want it to be all natural. We want it to be a premium product. We don't want it to be priced next to like your mass market plastic bottle Bloody Mary mix, because we're paying more money for the good ingredients. We're going to charge a little bit more for it, but it's a better product. We know it's a better product. And then I think where a ton of people go wrong when with their product, and I did it myself, is branding is so incredibly important. The way your product looks on the shelf, it's mind blowing what a difference it can make to the way a consumer perceives its value. I mean, our first label, it was so bad. And, it was orange and yellow, and it was just there was nothing to it. It was great for a first label, but I mean, I'm not gonna get that thing further than, like, the downtown peninsula of being able to get on the shelf somewhere. I put that in the shelf in, like, Atlanta or, California, it'll turn black before someone buys that bottle.
When does someone typically become a customer? Is it seeing it on the shelf and they pick it up at a retail store? Or is that one of your events? Like, where does someone first get introduced to that product
So,
typically?
yeah, I mean, it's weird. The Bloody Mary space is a lot different than a lot of the other beverage spaces. The challenge for us is liquid to lips. Most people have a brand they love, and for me that was Zing Zang, right? Like I love that brand. Still think it's a quality brand. So in this space, the getting in front of people, whether that's samplings in stores, food and wine fest, it's key. We did some really clever marketing in the beginning that got some eyeballs in the product. Now it's another product, like let's say we were selling like a soda water. A customer would be willing to buy a soda water off a retail shelf if it had a cool label and maybe it was on discount. Like maybe their normal brand it's less expensive, it just looks good. Customers are usually like, "Yeah, I'll give it a try." Like, it's soda water. Bloody Mary mixes, and there's a few other products out there.
There's more loyalty.
There's loyalty. People are like, "I know that's a good Bloody Mary.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna risk it on some other brand." We've had a few occasions where, a lot of our retail partners, like your big box stores, to make more money, they do, like store brand versions of stuff. And so, like, I name names, but one of our biggest accounts decides that they're going to essentially clear out all of the brands from their Bloody Mary space and do their own version of the brand of Bloody Mary
They're like just
mix.
white labeling someone else's product or?
No, yes, they white labeled someone else's, but they put their own stuff on it, and it absolutely decimated that space. They did really well with other products. They did really well with like, napkins or soda water, but Bloody Marys, and we kind of told them, but you can't tell some of the big guys how to run,
Right.
that space. We're like, listen, we've been in this space for 12 years now. We're going on 14. it's not going to work. And we can see the reports, and it didn't work. It's killed their portion of the mixer set. So I think it's knowing what lane you're in, and then being the best you can in that lane. Again, it's like this trying to sound all, namaste about it, but it's the truth for us. We really want to dominate markets that we're in. We want to make sure that we take care of our partners, and then we look at kind of where geographic growth makes sense.
So when you talked about that issue before, it's pretty interesting, like with the distribution partners and them having 400 other brands to sell. How do you separate yourself and how do you get them to champion your product as opposed to, is it incentives? Is it,
Yeah, it's challenging, right? Like everybody's throwing money at them,
Mhm.
like incentive wise. Um, so we try to build relationships. You get a 3 or 4 kind of prophets of the brand, right? That are your guys or your girls, that they're the ones that, no matter what you do in a positive, they're still going to be promoting your brand. Like they're still thinking about it. They're still offering it up. So you get 3 or 4 of those, that's in our markets, in our states, and then we do the rest, right? Incentives are great, and it can move the needle a little bit. It can get you some top of mind awareness, but everyone's doing them, right? Like you're not going to win the incentive game when you're up against some of these giant beer brands and some of these giant wine labels. So for us, it's our core people, and then we're doing the work, right? Like we're going into market, we're pitching restaurants, we're giving our distributor layups. Hey, we went in, we've locked down Hall's Greenville. All you got to do is go take their order, and they're good to go. And then you do stuff like that. You take care of the reps, and then you drive. The other part of it is just driving customer demand. If we're moving off the shelf and we make their jobs easy, then you become a product they want to help push. And so it's kind of it's a combination of a lot of things. Especially, it's changing so fast right now because distributors are downsizing. They are changing their portfolios. They're buying other distributor houses. So these portfolios are becoming massive for a smaller number of people. So the other part of it is we're hiring small little market managers that don't directly work for us. They might rep us and 3 other mid-sized brands.
like a
N-
broker?
Yeah, non-competitive, but not like a lot of times with brokers are great. A lot of them though they've been with a certain retailer for 25 years, and it's always I know everybody. I was the best man at his daughter's wedding. And well, meanwhile, his best friend's 25 years in the business and about to get out, and all the young ones coming up don't want to hear from old George chain smoking cigarettes, talking about the good old days and why you need to bring this brand in. Like you got to be. It's getting really nimble. These guys are changing positions at the grocery store super fast. We've got some retail partners where our buyer now is not the same as it was a year ago. So that relationship I spent a year and a half building, and lunches and dinners and golf, and it's done.
Yeah.
And now you got to make the new buyer your best friend. And these buyers, they've got 25 brands that are trying to become their best friend. So what we've kind of positioned ourselves to do is we just need to drive consumer demand. If we're selling on the shelf, that'll take care of everything else. And so now it's a game of awareness. We know we've got a good product. So now it's awareness, right? How do we get consumers to go into the grocery store, ask for our product, buy it off the shelf? How do we get consumers to ask for us when they go to Triangle Charm Bar and they see the Bloody Mary options? How do we get them to pick Charleston Mixed Bloody Mary? So the name of the game for us is just is awareness, awareness, awareness.
What is the biggest thing that you have learned from starting this business to now that you weren't doing at the beginning that you do now that you wish you knew?
Jeez Louise, that's a good question. Um, I think the marketing portion of it, whether that's the the food and wine shows or just driving awareness, we've done that in stops and starts, right? Where marketing is a really expensive thing to do, especially to get eyeballs on your product. And things start going well, and you take your foot off the gas on marketing because you're like, we're doing great. We don't need to spend $10,000 a month on awareness campaigns. We're where we need to be now. Well, you take your foot off the gas and it doesn't happen immediately, but it starts to cycle back down.
Yeah.
And I think that's where it's always a challenge because you've got a fixed budget. Like we don't have Coca-Cola money, but Coca-Cola, most recognizable brand, or at least it used to be in the world. I mean, they don't stop marketing, right?
Yeah.
They're everywhere. They are
Out of sight, out of mind.
Yep, they are at every food and wine show we do. Coca-Cola's got a presence. And so I think that's one of the things that it's really tough to keep that in mind, that in our space, or in the consumer packaged goods space, marketing is so important, even if you have an amazing product. But it's tough too, because you need to change with the times, right? Like we actually, that charity boxing match we run, we've had some posts and reels that we promoted that, I think our highest reel we've ever gotten like 75,000 views on it. We partner with a local influencer. The guy is incredibly cool, did it for free just to help a charity event out. He did one reel, and I think within, I want to say like 3 hours, it was at 300,000 views on our page. So, I mean, marketing's changing, and I think for our team, it's now kind of figuring out where to allocate those dollars. It's not going to be in the newspaper clippings,
Mhm.
right? That's probably not going to move the needle for us. But maybe we spend the money with a Nashville food blogger that has a big following, that she does some fun posts for us, and it gets people to try the product. So it's a changing landscape, but I ultimately think in our space, marketing is something that until recently, I really never focused on how important it was, at least to continue to drive growth.
And you think the influencer model is the best way to go now,
I
or
don't know that for a fact. Who knows if those real views we were getting meant anything, right? Maybe
right?
it's,
It's hard to tie it to
yeah,
like bottom line.
maybe it's some troll in a basement that's watching his video 500 times in a row. Like maybe that's not but I certainly think it's worth a look, right? There are some partnerships that can just can move the needle, and whether that's a blogger in Nashville, or a feature on some article in Garden and Gun. Well, we just got to keep trying it, right? Like I still remember and this might be, I might be too old, dating myself, but Dollar Shave Club, when they launched, they did this really funny, witty commercial, and it just blew up. And I think the company, within a year after that, they got bought out by Gillette for $1 billion. And the commercial, though, it's heartfelt, it's funny, it's kind of witty, and it just goes viral. And like, you can't, as much as you might want to write what you think is going to be a viral campaign, like you can never plan it, but those guys just hit it out of the park, and it just goes nuts. And so you're always hoping for that, right? Like we get a really cool partnership with somebody, and they feature us in some way that we hadn't thought of, and it blows up. But it's like winning the lottery, right? If
Right.
that's what I'm waiting on, then I'm going to be on the clearance rack at Walmart.
Right.
You know,
So how did you go from this brand into the charity boxing event?
so I love my time at the college, and I've stayed kind of active with their athletic department. And one of my best friends now is the athletic director at the college. And so I've always, done a bunch with their fundraising and on some of their boards. And I was up in DC, and one of my best buddies was fighting in this charity boxing match, and they raised money for childhood cancer research. And it's a super cool event. And, I'm drinking. I feel like all my stories that are successful start with some kind of drinking. And I'm texting my buddy Matt from this event, and, they raised $400,000 in one night. And it's all amateurs. It's literally like you off the street, they pick you up and say, "Hey, do you want to do this?" They train you for 5 months, and then you go fight somebody similar age, height, and weight. And so they hit this $400,000 total. I'm drunk texting Matt, and I'm like, "You gotta let me do this." And for about 6 months, he's like, "Absolutely not." And then finally, we came to a agreement. He's like, "Listen, I'll let you use the arena. You can't do this as a College of Charleston event. Like, you guys are renting the arena out, but yeah, we'll let you do it." So the first year, Rod Razavi introduced me to, who's now one of my closest friends, Hunter Brinson, who was in the boxing world, and he, he's like, "You should have Hunter help you do this because he actually knows about boxing." Like, I know I look like I'm super fit and in shape, but nothing about boxing. And so Hunter and I went out and we partnered with some local gyms. We went out and talked to every friend we had and recruited 32 of them, no, 28 to compete. So they signed up, we put them at their gyms, and they trained for 5 months, and then on top of their training, they had to fundraise money. So they went out to friends and family, and so I think our first year they raised 180 or sorry, 80 grand. Awesome night, some issues, the AC broke in the arena, so, guys are sweating through their suit jackets, like, women's makeup's coming down. We ran out of ice, ran out of liquor, like, it was the fire festival of boxing events. But funny enough, we sent out a survey to everyone that came, and we had, like, a 96% approval. Yes, we would come back to this event. So the next year we did an open application thing. We put an application out on the internet and said, if you think you have what it takes, we had 120 people apply for it.
Wow.
And so we went big last year. I think we had 42 competitors. They raised 180 grand last year. And but we learned some issues too. We went too long. Public safety at the college was going to murder us because we were supposed to be out by 10:30 and like it was 11:15. You know, it so we've adjusted it now where I think we're between the mayo and the mustard on it, like, it's gonna be pretty smooth. It's always stressful. No one in this town buys general admission tickets to the last minute.
Yeah.
So, like, all of our VIP stuff is about sold out, but the GA tickets, it's literally the week of is when it goes crazy, but until that happens, because we guarantee to our boxers every dollar they raise goes to our charity partners. So we pay for the event through ticket sales, sponsorships, and that's it. So it's an expensive event to put on. Like, we do a light and sound package. It looks like Madison Square Garden in there. We do high-end food for all of our VIPs. There's full open bars for the VIP ticket holders. So it definitely gets expensive. So, but back to your point, as far as the boxing thing, it's become more of like a passion project, right? It's been super rewarding, and it's last year it became the largest boxing event in South Carolina history.
Wow.
And we've now hit close to 400 grand in total funds raised for the charity partners. And, for some of these boxers, it's really been cool because the stories they've got as far as some of these guys have like lost purpose in life. We've had female boxers too, where, they're losing 10, 20, 30 pounds. They're in the best shape of their lives. They're feeling like this renewed kind of commitment and this like renewed passion. And then these boxers become like family with each other. And then on the other side of it, you've got these gyms that they are like a community hub, right? Sometimes they've got at-risk youth. They've got people that have been going to these gyms forever. And now we're bringing in this cadre of idiots, essentially, and we put them at these gyms. They have no experience, but then they become a part of this family, and it's super rewarding. I think Zach, one of our top fundraisers this year, was telling this funny story the other day. We were doing this Hot One style interview, and he was talking about, he goes into the gym and he's 190 pounds, and there's like a 12-year-old kid in the gym that it's his first day of sparring. The kid's 120 pounds soaking wet, and Zach's all cocky, and he's like, "I'm gonna kill this kid." And he said within like a round, he is the shit beat out of him. He's bleeding like profusely from his face. And he's like, and this kid now is like my favorite human in the world. Like they've just got this bond. He's learned more about himself. So it's certainly it's become a passion project. It's it's I'm never going to get rich off of it. Like the past 2 years, it's cost some money out of our own pockets to make sure we get all of our vendors paid. But it's been a lot of fun, and I think over time it's something that, especially for Hunter, this is something he's amazing at, and he's younger than I am, and I think my goal for it would be continue to grow it and then allow it to become something Hunter can make into a full-time job. And, not that it will ever be as big as like the bridge run, but make it this
Never say never.
Yeah, I mean, make it this yearly event that, we've got a small staff. Like our staff right now is almost all volunteer, where he can have a small staff. We plan for it all year. And then we've started to get approached by some of the professional fighting groups about bringing an event to the arena, because the arena is gorgeous, right? It's 5,000 seats. It's beautiful. It's in the middle of downtown. So maybe that's where it goes from here. But right now, I mean, it's a ton of fun. It's definitely the stress has been a bit much. And, while this is all going on, I've got it supposed to be slinging tomato sauce myself and actually selling Bloody Mary mix and margarita mix, all while trying to make sure this event doesn't fall apart at the wheels.
Yeah, you like that. The circus spinning the plates on the sticks.
Yeah, exactly.
It's funny. When I first moved to Charleston, I came here with my business partner when we moved the business from Florida up to Charleston. And he in his 20s managed professional fighters. And so I brought him to that event, and he's like, dude, this is ridiculous. He's like, the professional fights in Panama don't even get like this, this kind of notoriety. And so he's always thought it was a super cool event. I mean, we had a blast that night. So
Did you go year one with no AC or year two?
I went 2 years ago. So
so it was the no AC year.
What was it?
We ran out of food. Yeah, it was legitimate.
It didn't feel like, I don't remember it being like that hot. I mean,
hopefully
maybe.
the alcohol helped cool it down a little bit.
I don't drink, but
oh man, God, you probably witnessed some insane.
But we were on the floor.
Yeah,
and it was like absolutely epic, like such a good time.
Yeah,
and hilarious.
It's a great night, and we we really just want people to have a good time, and it's something different, right? Like, you can always go to the bar with your buddies. There's always a concert, or once a year there's a semi-professional boxing match in downtown Charleston. You can get dolled up and scream at people to beat the shit out of each other.
It's like people is seeing the
and so it really is cool, because one of the other things with the event is, again, I have zero boxing ability. I would never get in the ring. Every single person we have that is competing could beat the shit out of me. Like, it's but you think you understand the sport, and we don't wager on like, not outwardly wager on the fights, but I've had friends kind of ask me like, hey dude, if you were betting on somebody, who would you bet on? And I think I know these boxers, right? Like, I've seen enough fights, and it's just incredible, because a minute 30 doesn't sound like a long time, right? 3 rounds of a minute 30. There have been some boxers where if I had $1,000 to wager, I would have wagered it all on them.
Yeah.
And they just go in and they get smoked.
Yeah.
And it's adrenaline, it's stamina, and it's mind-boggling, just the mental gymnastics that they go through, and then the preparation, right? Like, the guy might be skinnier than his competitor. He maybe has a longer reach, but maybe his competitor has been training in a different way, or like hitting it harder. And I was saying this the other day, that the cool thing about boxing, I think that's why it's so appealing for a lot of people, especially the guys competing, is it's almost like you instantly know how good you've done, right? After 3 rounds, you either won or lost.
Yeah.
So you come out of that ring and I trained harder than my competitor, or I didn't train enough, because that's all. It's a mano-a-mano. There's one winner, there's one loser. Like, there's no ties.
You guys had a knockout last year, didn't you?
Yeah, we had. So
it's insane.
He's become a really good friend. His boxing name was Eastside Schwartz. He's a local attorney, amazing guy. He actually raised $50,000 last year.
Holy crap!
And he's a very committed, focused person. And I think he was a pitcher in college for, I forget what the baseball team was, but
so he had that torque.
He had the torque, and he just, like when Ryan commits to something, that's why he raised 50 grand, right? He's like, he had all these chips saved up to call in. Maybe somebody that got themselves in trouble that he just kind of pro bonoed them out of it.
Yeah.
And he gets in the ring, and the guy he went against, amazing guy, veteran, trained his ass off. And I think Rye just hit him. If you watch the clip, like, I think he just hit him in the right spot, and poor guy goes down, and
Oh,
you can
man.
see, like, he got right back up almost immediately, but he was down for a minute, and he's slamming on the floor. And this is what I said to people that have competed, and this is why I don't have the cojones to do it, is it's one night, right? You're in front of 4,000 people.
Yeah.
You lose, you've lost.
Yeah.
Like, you're not getting back. We've only had one repeat battle, but more than likely, you're not getting back in front of 4,000 people in Charleston to compete.
All right.
So this is on your resume now. And so that's some
real.
of my friends
No pressure.
that have done it. I'm so incredibly thankful because you are putting yourself out there in a way most people would never. I don't have the balls to do it. And secondly, you're going to have, whether you won or lost. And truthfully, there are some friends of mine that I think our relationships are a little bit different since they fought, where, one of them, they didn't win, and it just feels a little different. It sucks, right? But I get it. I totally get it.
Yeah.
Because there's always in the back of your mind, you think, maybe the judges maybe the judges were being unfair, or maybe X, Y, Z. And I get it. I totally get it. I would do the same thing. Now, some of them have said, the ones that have lost some of them have been very much like inward. That was the best experience I ever went through. I enjoyed every second of it. Sucks I lost, but I'm so glad I did it. Now, for the guys that won, I'm their hero, right? Like, I look like Don King. I had one of my best buds. He's a doctor at MUSC, and he competed, I think it was either last year or first year. And I remember we met up the next day for drinks, and he's got a kid, he has a wife, he's an anesthesiologist, so he's working all the time. And so I'm taking 2 hours of his day, 5 days a week. He's committed to this event. And I remember we had a few drinks, and we're kind of talking about the event, and he starts crying. And he's like, I'm just so sad it's over, because
No way.
this was such a big part of my life, and I loved it so much. And he's like, I'm going to miss it.
Wow.
And I remember, and he won pretty big. And I'm getting teared up, and I'm like, it's one of those super cheesy, like, no, man, like, this is on you. And so it's been really cool, that part of it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I congratulate you in your accomplishments, and I look forward to seeing what you guys do at the event this year.
So are you coming?
I can't come this year. I'm literally moving down to Panama in 2 days.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, I would have come otherwise, and this has kind of been like a last minute decision for
Well,
me.
Sam has promised to get some good pictures for you, so.
Sweet. Yeah, I'll send them my way.
Yeah.
If anyone wants to reach out to you, if they want to buy the Bloody Mary mix, or they want to come to the event, you want to plug some links?
Yeah, so the Bloody Mary mix, our website's charlestonmix.com or chsmix.com. And so we've got our Bloody Mary mix, margarita mix. It's available, you can find where it's available on our website. So we've got a find the mix page, but pretty much Southeast, Midwest, Northeast, out West, and Texas. And the margarita mix you'll start to see pop up more and more. And then the boxing is chsboxing.com. Tickets start just $25 for students, military, and first responders. It's an all ages show. We think hopefully most people are starting to realize it's the most electric night in Charleston all year.
Yeah, I
You're
can attest to that.
you're not going to have more fun on a night out for $25 than you will at TD on next Friday night. There are elevated packages available. It's almost sold out, but we've got open bar options, and you can get super close to the ring. So that's chsboxing.com where our tickets are. That benefits MUSC Children's Hospital, Warrior Surf, and student athlete scholarships at the college. So, but my information is available on both those sites. If you want to reach out, happy to answer any questions you might have.
Fantastic. Any last word for entrepreneurs? Last words?
I think it would be just, if you're thinking about it, just do it. You know, I'd rather be filled. I'd rather have no regret knowing that I tried something than being the guy that's always like, oh, I had this idea for something. Cool. What did you ever do about it?
Right.
Like, if you can, without jeopardizing your safety, wellness, or like family, I'd say do it.
Sweet. Well, great advice. I appreciate you coming on. It's
Yeah.
been
Thank you
awesome,
for
man.
having me. This has been great.
Yeah, for sure. It's a wrap.